When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube. So, we're back on the Grease Goblins channel, and today we're going to be doing episode 2 of the What If series. Thank you guys for all the support on the first episode, which was, what if the Red Wedding doesn't happen? So if you wanted to see that video, you go back and watch it. It was pretty good. And I really enjoyed doing that. But you guys suggested that I do what if Ned was actually sent to the wall. Before we get into that though, if you guys would like to see more of this content, or you'd like me to see me do a different what if, let me know down in the comments. I'm going to try to do about one of these a week. So if I do get backed up on a lot of like suggestions or whatever, you might not see it for a little while. But yeah, this is also recommended by the comments, so I'm going to put those on the screen. And yeah, subscribe, like, comment for more of these type of videos. And let's get into it. So, in the main story, we see that Ned was actually supposed to go to the wall. This was Cersei's plan, and this was a good way of just kind of not having the North kind of have a war where there's no peace. Because once they chopped off Ned's head, it was pretty much like there was going to be no peace. There was almost no shot, because you had a trade bargain, right? So, at this point, Jaime had been captured by Robb. And it would have made sense that Ned takes the, takes the black, they free him, and then you trade the daughters, Sansa. They didn't actually have Arya at this point, but, the war, like I'm saying, could have been avoidable from the North side of it, and from the Lannisters, and it would have eliminated a possible conflict. But some things happened, some Littlefinger meddling and such, and here we are. And Joffrey just being Joffrey, and here we are in the main story. So in this situation, we're going to say that Joffrey listens to his mother. There's no well, maybe Littlefinger tries, it doesn't work, and Joffrey sends him to the wall. Now, I have multiple things that actually wouldn't change the story too much. I think there's 3 possible outcomes. Maybe I'll go 4 possible outcomes on what this can do. The first one was, at this point, Ned's leg was still really messed up and probably had an infection. And I believe Ned actually wouldn't have survived the journey to the wall anyway. So I think that's option 1. Let's say he gets good medical aid, he gets patched up, they feed him really well, and he's in good health and makes it to the wall. Right, let's say that happens. I think Ned, being the honorable guy he is, and I think he wouldn't mind the wall because Benjen's there and Jon is there, he would just do it. And I think he would urge maybe peace at this point, because I don't think he would want to see his son going to war. I think Ned, he'd have a little talk with Robb and would be like, hey, just trade Jaime for the girls and just get out of this. That's option 1. The other option would be, I think he would tell Robb, hey, just support Stannis. He's the rightful king. Don't do anything stupid, and you'll be fine. So I think there's 2 options there. If we get the Stannis thing, I'm going to give you just a short, because we have so many possibilities, because this is such a big event of what could happen. I'm going to give you a short little run through. I think what could have happened would have been Robb would have been inclined. There would have been no King of the North. He would have supported Stannis. Stannis' plotline would have stayed mostly the same until we get to King's Landing, where I think the combined forces of the Starks and Stannis would have led to them winning. So, I talked about that in another video, the King of the North video, where I thought that was a really dumb decision. If you guys want to see more of how I think that storyline would have gone, just watch that video. Because I don't want to retract the same stuff I've already gone through, but that is basically, if you watch that video, which I'll have linked if you guys want to watch that, is more or less where that story would have gone. The second option. Now, the second option is what I think is the most likely. Is I think Littlefinger, knowing that he wanted Ned to die and needed this conflict to start, would have gotten an assassin or hired somebody to kill Ned and then tried to frame it on the Lannisters, and then we would have had more or less the exact same story where Ned still dies, they believe it's the Lannisters, Robb would have continued the war, nothing would have changed in that scenario. So that is option 2. I think these 2 are the most likely options, where Ned either dies. I just don't see that Ned makes it to the wall, with Littlefinger's motivations going on at this point, and also just kind of Ned's health state at this point. I don't think he would have made it to the wall. Let's say out of those 2, that doesn't happen either. Let's say the third option, which is kind of the option I already talked about, where Ned actually makes it to the wall. And we'll go a little further. So, not looking at the main Westeros line, I've already talked about that Robb would have gone with Stannis most likely because of his father's advice, or would have stayed out of the war. In general, I don't think there would have been a King of the North plotline with Ned, telling him things to do. So Ned then would have gone to the wall. I think instead of Jon becoming the Lord Commander after Lord Mormont, I think it definitely would have been Ned. I think this would have been an easy choice. I don't think anybody would have had a problem really with this choice. Which would have been really funny was when Janos Slynt comes to the wall. How would that situation have been handled? Because Ned knows he was basically betrayed by Janos Slynt. That would have been very interesting to see. I don't think Ned would have beheaded him, to say. But I definitely think Alistair Thorne, even Alistair Thorne, I think, would have respected Ned. I just think, for me, I think actually the Watch would be way more better prepared than with Jon. I think now they would have made similar situations. I think Jon would have stayed in a very similar position where Jon would have been basically like what he was for Lord Mormont, basically his steward. I think that would have continued to play that out. I think Jon's role just gets limited in this role because he doesn't actually move up. He probably just stays at the same role. If Ned would to die, I could definitely see Jon, taking over after Ned. But with that being said, I think realistically, I don't know what Ned would have done with the wildlings. I think it's a very interesting topic because the reason Jon understands why the wildlings need to come across the wall is because he's been north of the wall, he's experienced with the wildlings, and he understands kind of what's out there. So I don't know if Ned would have done the same decisions. Ned would not have had the same personal experiences because Ned would have showed up at the wall after they'd already gone north. So Ned would have arrived once everybody was gone from, Castle Black. And it would have been interesting because I think Ned instantly, like I said, becomes the Lord Commander. I just don't know what his decision-making would have been. I don't know if he would have let the wildlings across the wall because I feel like Ned would know the implications of that, being somebody that's managed the Northern Lords and how he knows that most of the Northern Lords don't like the wildlings. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think on what Ned would do in that situation when it comes to the running of the wall. Would he have let the wildlings past? Because Stannis, I do think still, I think Stannis would have been king still, because in this situation, I think if Robb was to team up with him, either way, I think Stannis would come to the wall's aid. If he's king, or if he's not king, I think both situations still play out to where the wildlings do lose the Battle of the Wall. So with that being said, I think it really comes down to, is the world united? If Daenerys comes at a really bad time, I think she would come, because I think Stannis, with the help of Robb, would actually unite the kingdoms. But then as soon as Dany comes over, a bunch of issues happen. And I don't know. I think this is almost another scenario where, in the short term, it makes a lot of sense for characters. But in the long term, I don't know. Also, I would suggest, because I also made another video where I talk about Kat and how she didn't tell Robb to not let Theon go. Ned definitely, if he got to talk with Robb on his way up north, which I think he would have, because I think Yoren would have let him, I think he would have said, Robb, don't be stupid. Don't let Theon go to, the Iron Islands. I think he would have given him all that advice that he gave to Catelyn way earlier on in the books when Ned was telling her to basically prepare the North for war, which she didn't do. So I think in that scenario, it is really interesting to look at how Ned being alive changes a lot of different things. Even with him just being on the wall, where it's like you would think he would have little impact there, he actually has a lot of impact with the politics of the wall, as well as the politics of Robb in general as leading the North. So very interesting. I don't actually have a lot more to this theory, because the thing is, with me, when I personally believe this theory would go, I think Ned would still die. If you look at the way Littlefinger was playing the game, his whole thing on creating the War of the Five Kings kind of relied upon Ned. And he was trying to bring down the Stark house just in general because of what happened with, you know, Brandon Stark earlier on when he was trying to fight for Catelyn's honor. So let me know if you guys have any other outcomes that you think would have happened with Ned. I think the last possible outcome, which I don't think would have happened, it just doesn't... I feel like Ned, I get it. He would have been slighted and stuff because he was, you know, he's basically deemed a traitor at this point. He just says, screw the watch. He says, screw the ruling of Joffrey and all that. And just actually takes over the North with Robb and actually just basically goes back to the North and says, hey, I don't care about what they told me that I'm going to go to the watch. We're going to lead this Northern army and we're going to kick some ass. I don't think that would have happened. That just doesn't fit Ned's character, in my opinion. But let me know. Do you think that that could have happened? Let me know what you guys like me to do on another What If. And I will see you guys all in the next video. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and we will see you guys in the next one.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.